Hello everybody, I'm Antonia and this is Noel and we are from Boxtail Soup Theatre Company and we are here again in our studio. Our studio looks even messier than it did last week, which is a good sign. It means we're getting well stuck in with making for Gulliver. So we have been making, well mainly this week has been about, in the design for the set, there's a big mast in the middle, which is also kind of like a giant anchor. It's got big anchor pieces at the bottom. And it's been figuring out how to make those, the bottom, the main shape bit of the anchor. I wish I knew what that bit of an anchor was called.
I looked it up.
What is it called?
The bit that sticks out like that is called the arm. And then the bit like the pointy sort of arrow thing on the end is called the fluke.
The fluke?
Yeah.
I quite like that. So we've been working out how, as in the pointy bit on the end of the arm, or the pointy bit that sticks into the sand, as it were, at the bottom of the seabed?
No, so you have the centre of the anchor, which I didn't check that bit, but I think that's called the shaft, and then you've got the crown at the bottom, then you've got the arm, and then you've got the fluke
and
on the
end. And the fluke is on the end of the arm. Okay, so we've been figuring out how to make the arm and the fluke part of the anchor. And the tricky thing, I don't know whether we mentioned it last week, we've probably mentioned it a lot, is not necessarily figuring out how to make that shape, but making it fold flat.
Yeah. So the interesting thing for this show is obviously we've had, as we've said several times, yeah, we've had the time to do the R&D, so we had a reference more so than ever before. We were able to make a prototype set, which was great because you have a sense of the size of the things that you want to be. You've had a kind of an opportunity to test out the scale, but there are still a lot of problems that you then need to solve, and the touring aspect of it, the fact that you've got to be able to make these things portable and light enough to be packed down and to be moved and to be toured around, but durable enough that they can be put together and they can last through a show and they can last through potentially hundreds of shows, who knows how many. It provides a whole different level of challenge to it. If we could have made the arms of this anchor and we could have just made a solid object and made it and kind of known that it was going to be in one place and that was that, then we probably could have finished with it in a day. But the other aspect of it, having to make it light and tourable and packable, provides a whole spectrum of other issues.
So we've been figuring that out, and you basically we'd cut the shape out and put it put together with some tape and whatever, and gone, look, what do you think of this as a shape? Mm-hmm. It looked great, and you'd done that in I think even less than a day. But then it took a lot longer to sort of figure, and we went through various iterations of how we can make it fold flat. Having done a lot of this in the past with all of our sets, there are certain things that we've realised it's worth avoiding if you can. One of them are large hinges. So in some of our sets, we've hinged two pieces like that with gaffer tape, so doubled over gaffer tape, and then gaffer tape sort of stuck to stick the hinge. And it works very well. It makes like a proper hinge. But the trouble with it is that after a while, when you've covered it with the papier-mâché, it starts to pull away. And aesthetically, it's not as tidy as you might like it to be. After it starts to wiggle around.
It's difficult to make it look neat in the beginning, and it's even harder to keep it neat then, because it does start to pull in
So we tried to avoid that where possible, and have come up with a solution which involves a lot of magnets, basically.
Gotta love a magnet.
So I don't know whether, I think it's probably, why don't you put...
Yeah, I think the simplest thing is just to put it together.
So these are all the pieces.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of pieces laid out on the table here, and although it looks like perhaps these are just kind of the parts before something, well, they are the parts before something is assembled, but they're actually all ready to snap together.
Let's snap it.
So you've got these two, which are the kind of the main parts of the body of the whole thing. And this fella goes in here like this.
Because we didn't want it just to be a flat shape. We wanted to be able to use it as a three-dimensional object.
This one maybe needs to turn over and goes in the end like that. And then inside here, in fact, you can see that somewhere we had to have a little bit of a hinge.
At least it's hidden.
Yeah, so
Hidden
these
hinge.
pieces are going to snap and hold it together on the top, and we've hidden the hinge so that we can decorate over that. So that goes on the top like that.
It's all quite satisfying.
These guys, it is satisfying because it makes a nice click as well when it goes on. These guys go on the end of here like so,
And you've got
and
another
then this just clips that together over the top there, and the whole thing is pretty
it's pretty strong.
pretty solid.
So there you go. And then we just need to, in order to make it sit, what we want it to do is we want it to sit like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to put a bit of weight in this end just to make it sit. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah,
Make it
that's
sit like that.
that's what I'm thinking. In fact, what I might do is I might cut a piece that actually just plugs into the end there and sort of fits in as a little thing in the end, and then has a sort of built-in weight,
bit of weight in there.
that sits at the bottom of it.
We worked out that doesn't actually, I thought it would need quite a lot, but then we
Doesn't take
experimented
much,
with the tape measure that we've got, and it actually, that was plenty heavy enough. So
The other thing that will allow it to do is it will allow it to probably go out of frame at the top, but it will allow it to stand on its end, so it'll be able to stand upright like that as well.
which makes quite an interesting shape when you've got two of them on the end like that. It makes a sort of archway where we can use them. We're thinking we would, as always, we like to use things not just for one purpose.
Yeah.
And the idea is that there are going to be 4 of these. So there'll be 2 on each side of the main mast to make the anchor shape. And that then when you, either we're going to use all 4 for a particular image, but we're not sure about that yet, or at least then if we take 2 forwards to make an arch or whatever, the shape of the anchor still remains at the back, which is nice.
And the other benefit to having made them this way is that the foam board is extremely light, so it does mean that you're able to pick up, you know, a relatively big piece of set like this and potentially use it in other ways and in other places in the scene, and it really is incredibly light. It also means that it would be possible, if we decide that we wanted to, or that it was useful, to take some pieces off and use them in other ways if necessary, which might be interesting to have a play with.
And so obviously these will be covered in the same papier-mâché, this paper we're using for most of this set, in fact. And then we're going to use, we decided to make an asset of the fact that it needs these pieces to hold it together rather than trying to hide the fixings. So we're going to make these look a little bit like metal rivets and hinges and that kind of thing, aren't we? We're going to give it a bit more, they give it a bit more texture.
Like
I
sort of
quite
connecting
like it.
plates and
Yeah.
things. Yeah, but
So
it was a bit of a headache to work out, but
it was definitely,
now that we figured it out.
and it went through iterations of a kind of very long wiggly piece that went all the way through the base of it, which in fact we realised it just didn't need, did it? To hold it together, it actually only needed a couple of pieces.
Yeah, so it was in fact a sort of flexible thing that went all the way
Like
along.
a snake.
But we've decided we can just leave that empty.
Yeah. So all of the pieces are cut out for that, and Noel is now putting magnets into the final bits. We've got 2 of those made, so 2 are then on the way. So that's great. So we're kind of, there are, I suppose that bit was one of the main fiddly bits of the set that we needed to figure out.
Yeah.
We've got these ship's lanterns here.
Yeah, so
which I
we were
feel
looking
like-
at the
Did we-
bits of these last time
Yeah.
in a less finished version.
So they're all covered and everything now, and then I've got one down here that I've just very quickly popped a couple of lights in. There's a gel in there just so that you can get a sense of what it might look like. But we're quite pleased with them. I think what we'll try and do is diffuse the light better so that you don't see the ring of the light.
Yeah, so we'll put something slightly frosted in there so you just get the glow from inside rather than being able to see the light itself.
But you can get a sense of it. And the idea with these, the reason why they've got these little loops on the top is that they'll hang onto then some of the masts that we've got as part of the set, and then they can be taken down and held and used as lamps like that. So they're nice and sturdy.
They've turned out nicely as well. I think
Yeah.
they look cool. They look unusual. I like the way they look.
And then we've got, I've also just been experimenting. I've papier-mâchéed myself an offcut of foam board just to experiment with the sort of colours that we might want to use. We liked the kind of pen and ink idea that was on the prototype set, which is just sort of drawn on with a Sharpie to make it look a bit more interesting, because it mirrors the illustrations that are in the book, and we wanted to try and keep that. So I think we tried it on just the bare paper, but we don't think that looks quite right. And then I coffee stained one side. I don't know how well you can see this, but I coffee stained one side of it and then drew it on that. And we like this, we think, So we're going to have a little bit more. I think I'm going to do a larger piece to get a sense of what it would look like if it was all over. But in theory, that might be quite an interesting. It gives it that kind of old map, parchmenty old map kind of feel. So that's where we are. Not doing too badly. Still got a lot to do, but the beginnings are always. I always think it's like a kind of tortoise race, isn't it?
Yes, you do sort of pick up speed in the beginning. It can feel very slow while you're working things out, but once you get to grips with it, you do tend to pick up a bit of speed. I think it's the mast next for me.
Yeah. So I think that's all for this week. The tickets are people are buying tickets for Edinburgh. Thank you so much if you've bought yours already or you've recommended it to somebody. Please do. If you're not coming yourself, please do tell anyone you know who might be coming. The best way for us to spread the word about the Fringe while we're there is word of mouth, and pre-Fringe is also word of mouth. So please do tell everyone that we're going to be there, and we'd love to see lots of you there. The ticket link, we'll probably put a ticket link somewhere in this vlog.
I definitely will, yes.
Obviously on our website, all that sort of thing. In the meantime, if you are enjoying them, please do give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, ask any questions you would like. And welcome to new subscribers. Again, lovely to have you. And we will see you again next time.